You can start.
We've been on the road for a couple years now, and we've been on this journey of finding safe and affirming and welcoming spaces to camp. And we wanted to take a moment to share some insights on how we go about finding places and choosing the places that we go to visit, and some of the pros and cons of the different types of avenues you can pursue.
Yeah, I love to travel. We love to travel. And the last few years have been pretty amazing that we get to travel across this country in a way that brings joy to us. And a lot of that has to do with the way we go about seeking affirming and belonging places. So for us, it's been very important for us to connect with Black-owned and Black-affirming places. But we think some of our techniques and our methods and the lessons we learned could apply to anyone who feels marginalized in this country for whatever reasons. And how do you go about finding places where you feel welcome and feel that you belong?
So we're going to break this down into a few key areas that we look at.
We have learned a lot of lessons. Some of them were easy lessons to learn. Some of them we learned the hard way. And we wanted to kind of share with you some of our thoughts as you go about planning trips and traveling across this country, and in being able to explore this country in a way that brings you joy and makes you feel like you belong.
For most people who are looking for camping destinations, one of the key places you go is to websites that are dedicated to camping. Sites like HipCamp or Tenter. There are a lot of different platforms out there, and we found that there are some pros and cons to using those particular sites, especially when you're looking for a space that you can feel assured is going to be a welcoming and affirming space. Starting with the pros, one of the pros, or at least it used to be a pro, is going to a site like HipCamp or Airbnb is that you can often find places that are more affordable to stay. And so just in the way that Airbnb became known for a good alternative for hotels, sites like HipCamp that are solely dedicated to camping destinations. Price point is one of the major pros, being able to find cheaper places. What we found, though, is that just like Airbnb, the prices just keep going up and up and up. And so, you find people who are essentially just offering a place to camp in their backyard or, off in the corner of their land, and they're charging $100 a night, $150 a night, which really kind of negates the value of going to a place like that versus some place that has more amenities like a state park or something like that.
For our purposes, because we, were specifically looking for like Black-owned places, I guess this falls in a pro and con category. Because one, it can be difficult to find out whether or not a place is Black-owned. I mean, sometimes you can look at the profile picture, but that's not always accurate. And I totally understand some people's decision not to put pictures on there because most of the time you're listing your place as an economic means. So you're trying to get the most money that you can, but it does make it more difficult for people to support you because of the very identity that you feel compelled to have to hide due to racial biases.
The other thing worth noting is that just seeing a face that you recognize, as being Black or BIPOC doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a welcoming or affirming experience. But it is one way that we use to begin the process of looking for places.
Generally, we have not had good experiences with going this route.
You don't get enough information to really know what you're going to show up to. These kind of platforms tend to be more of like a side income kind of thing for people. People aren't necessarily investing a lot into these spaces, especially when it's like camping, because literally it's just a spot outside. We've gone to places on multiple occasions where no one was there at the location. The pictures don't really tell the story of what the place actually looks like. And one place in particular, everything was overgrown and there were abandoned vehicles and broken down shacks all over, and there were cars but no people, and it was just a very strange, place. And for us, especially traveling as a family with our kids, we'd rather park on a public street than park off in the woods somewhere in this kind of like dilapidated place where we don't really know what or who is lurking around.
Yeah, I'm sure people have definitely had positive experiences, but for us, that one experience Mike just mentioned, that was one, but there was another one a couple years back where we got stuck. So we were in a very precarious situation because we were within like a neighborhood or a community that clearly by its signs is anti-Black, but we were in a place that we thought might have been a safe place, but because no one was there, we did not feel safe. Places like Hip Camp and Tinter, you put on your sites whatever you put. There's no vetting of the places. There's no checking to make sure places have like the basic levels of safety. So you take a risk each time you do that, and that's a risk that we don't want to take, especially traveling with our two teams.
Another resource that we look at when looking for camping destinations is Campground Lists. Across social media, you often find like Black-owned campground lists, as well as there are different publications that will occasionally put out articles. Hip Camp even had at one point a BIPOC-owned campground destination list that they had started putting together, but it seems like it was never maintained or updated. And so these are resources where you can like kind of get directly to what we are looking for. There are some pros and cons to this approach as well.
Yeah, so I mean, the pros of the campground list is that, it's a one-shot deal. Someone has already done the research for you. And it definitely, we went to those lists, but you have to be careful with them because you have to do your own vetting. One instance, we planned to go to one of the places on the list, but then when we called and did our own vetting, it was clear that the place was no longer Black owned. Some of these endeavors unfortunately don't last for everyone. But unless there's someone there consistently putting out these lists, which there aren't, you kind of just put them out one time and that's it. Definitely support the businesses on this list, but make sure you know that you have to do some vetting for yourself just to be careful, especially if you're a newbie, because what you don't want to have happen is to be somewhere and then at the last minute have to change your plans when you're doing something new for the first time. That has happened to us. Now we're able to kind of figure things out because we're just more comfortable. But I know the first time we did such a trip like that would have totally threw me for a loop.
Although there are some incidences where the lists are inaccurate, someone did take the time and care to put together the lists, and so they are a great resource, for us to use in traveling intentionally.
Not only that, new campground owners, they went the step sometimes to go and try to make sure they were included on this list. So yeah, we're not saying not use the list at all. We're just saying to be careful and vet it as you do.
Another valuable resource for finding camping destinations is festivals and events that are targeting marginalized communities. These can be like great ways to kind of dip your toe in a bit into camping and be in a place where you're going to have a safety net and there's going to be support staff and, you're going to be in a place with a lot of other people. It's also like a social environment. So you get to meet a lot of people who are into the same lifestyle, which for a lot of people, you're the oddball in your group. You're the person in your family who's talking about going camping and everybody's like in the woods outside. Like, nah, I'm not doing that. So these kind of festivals and events, offer an opportunity for you to kind of find your tribe and get into the community, as well as, just things, simple things is like seeing what camping gear people bring, and seeing what's available out there and talking to people about their experiences.
Yeah, so, tapping into existing events and festivals, that's the pro of that, of just being able to tap into community of people who are like the same things you like. It's definitely a big pro, and was one of the ways that we kind of got into this space, and we had a great time attending events and activities of organizations already arranging those. However, the big con of doing it that way is the cost. a lot of the times, the cost for doing these activities, it can get pretty high. I mean, the range is definitely there, but we've seen events costing like hundreds of dollars. And I think that prevents a lot of people, especially when you're trying to maintain, all the other things you're trying to maintain, doing this kind of like lifestyle.
And that's per person. So like if you have a group, you want to go with your friends, that's a few $100s per person for a couple nights out camping. Not to mention if you're new, you got to buy all the gear for camping. And so it can add up very quickly to be an expensive thing.
Okay, so another pro in the beginning is that there are a lot of things that you learn just talking to people about navigating this space that you might not necessarily find online or know about. You end up getting into more intimate conversations. Just getting into the network allows you to kind of be tapped into the wider universe of what is out there, how you should be doing things.
Another con, if you are not looking for a party, then these kind of festivals, especially if you're on the more introverted side or you're looking to get out into nature to really unplug and just rejuvenate and just kind of like reflect, then the festival environment may not be the best environment for you to do that. Often these events are jam-packed with activities. It's not necessarily the best environment if your goal is to do something more quiet and simple and something that is really making nature the focus and not necessarily like being around other people the focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as Black people, we definitely need to find time and space to restore and to heal. And so a lot of the times you can do that doing a solo trip without people and just kind of sitting with yourself. And I know a lot of people kind of need a break, right? Sometimes from people and just kind of want to connect with their spirit. So this might not, if you're in that phase of life where you're trying to heal and you're really trying to commune with nature, going to festivals and activities might not be right for you in this moment. And so in addition to being solo, like if you are doing a family trip, sometimes you do want to just connect as a family. And that's harder to do at a festival where there's so many other people kind of taking your attention. So there's just, there's a number of different ways you can kind of, connect with the outdoors. And you can just choose the best one for you in that moment.
We also will say, in terms of like the cost, we are strong advocates for people who are in the outdoor organizing space to more carefully consider the approach. We find that the cost gets to be like very prohibitive for a lot of people. But we will say that it does take a lot of time and effort to organize events, and particularly to organize events that are like a very, very targeted events that are designed to create like these affirming, these spaces of belonging. And so if the cost is doable, then it's worth it to go out and support these events and to build community with people who are like-minded and who are coming with the same energy as you are. Also, oftentimes organizers will have volunteer options where you can volunteer to help out in exchange for a ticket or discount on a ticket. And so that's another way to get involved with these events in a way that's more cost effective. When you think about camping, you automatically will think about campgrounds, but lots of people have land, and a lot of people intentionally are creating communal spaces on their land. They're willing to welcome people to their land. And so one of the things that we started to tap into was reaching out to farms and homesteads, looking towards them as potential camping destinations. Pretty much no matter where you live, a short drive away, there's going to be like some rural area, and there will be suitable spaces and sometimes absolutely beautiful destinations to camp that just are off the beaten path. We've done things like looking at the Black Farmers Index and just reaching out to people and introducing ourselves, as well as for looking at other social media platforms. Sometimes you can, make a connection that way, and people will welcome you to come out and camp on their land.
So, there's definitely pros to going the farm and homestead route. Like for us, we have that preference of being more closely connected to nature and being in areas where it's more wooded and more rustic. And farms and homesteads provide that. Different from what we just talked about festivals and trying to kind of connect with yourself in a large space of people. It's homesteads kind of give you the best of both worlds, where there's someone on the land, there's someone working the land, there's someone there. And so you can connect with them, but then you can retreat to your campsite and enjoy your time alone or enjoy your time with your family. So it's a nice way to kind of connect with people and still have me time.
Different farms and homesteads they can be in very different stages of development. They can have very different visions for how they, have designed the land. Be clear on what you're going to before you go, just to make sure that it meets your needs and preferences.
Yeah, I think about it more kind of like they're like mom and pop shops, right? So like you have your big grocery stores, but then you have your mom and pop shops where they might not have everything that you're looking for, but you go to them because of the people and because you want to support what they're doing and because they provide a welcoming space. So that's how I kind of see it. But if you're not comfortable with that, then going the more campground way would make more sense.
And so you have to be willing to be like patient, intentional about building relationships and looking for ways to build mutually beneficial relationships. Not just, I want to come use your land, for something, but really being open to exploring a genuine sense of connection with people. And quite often you will find that people who are a bit guarded at first will open up to you pretty quickly once they realize that, oh, you're a genuine person.
Yeah, and we do know this takes a lot of time, right? Like, I mean, if you're planning your first trip, you might not have the time to build all of these relationships. This is what we've kind of done over the course of the year. So we've been organizing and we've been living this life. Where we feel the most comfortable is definitely the method that takes the most work.
The effort that we've put in, we've done it intentionally to be an asset to our community. So the legwork that we've put in making connections, we're happy to share with people. Feel free to reach out to us if you have a trip you're planning somewhere and you're looking to connect with an affirming space. Also, you can go to the website and sign up to join the Above Ground Railroad community. We don't have to all be on our own solo journey, repeating the same lessons and the same work over and over. We should be sharing the load.
So at the end of the day, we've talked about all of these different ways that we've tried to find affirming and welcoming spaces for us. On the list, we still kind of use all of them. We use some more than others. What has been the number one resource to make sure that we're getting the pros and not the cons has been building relationships, which is much easier to do through social media.
Yes. Sending people direct messages, having ongoing conversations. And it's a two-way street. It's not just us looking for places to go, but it's us looking for alignment. One
con about social media is just recognizing that not everybody is on social media, particularly when you think about landowners, Black landowners. Many of them are older. So a lot of them aren't on social media. A lot of the old school kind of down south, down home is kind of like, what are you emailing me for? Just come by, that type of thing. So that's one con to social media. But social media is a way to help you get into the network at first, and then you can kind of deepen it through personal relationships and offline relationships.
One last point that we'd like to make is that camping does not have to be expensive. You may have to do a little bit more searching, but there are people who are not concerned with market rate for things, right? And so there are people who are not looking for just transactional relationships. And so you can find on all of these different places that we name, that we look for places to camp, you're going to find people who are willing to open up their space to you and welcome you in without charging you a premium for it. If you appreciate this kind of content, please be sure to like, subscribe, share this channel. We're not sure how frequently we'll be posting videos, but if you click the notification bell and click to receive all notifications, it will ensure that you see the videos that we put up in your suggested videos. And we'll see you next time.